Yeah, you are welcome back to this presentation. My name, as usual, remains Christopher Agboile, C, MSc Cybersecurity, MSc Information System Security Option, CISA, CEH, CISSP, Season Certified. Here, I want to talk about the security threats at different level of the OSI model. Yeah, like I said, the OSI model is a kind of modular communication model. Yeah, where each of the levels, level 1 to level 7, each is modular. We know the benefits which we have mentioned in the previous videos. So I want you to join me as we journey through this this session. Now, it's about understanding networking layers and the security implication. We have said that we have established that where there's no network, there is no communication. And for the purpose of communication, there is network. And for the purpose of network, then there was this issue of security in the network. So right now, we're going to look at the security threats at each of these modules from level 1 to level 7. So if you look at, we have already established what OSI model is about, talking about conceptual framework that standardizes network communication functions among different vendors or manufacturers. And we also established that it is divided into 7 layers, each with specific responsibilities. Now, looking at layer 1, we've said that the function is to deal with the actual physical medium for data transmission. We also said that it manages cables, switches, radio frequencies, connectors, and devices that carry binary signals. And of course, computer carry binary signals, zeros and ones. They also convert digital signals into electrical, also optical or radio signal. Now, at this level, we're looking at the threats that are associated with each of these levels. So here at layer 1, the major threat that happens is the wiretapping. What is wiretapping? Wiretapping is unauthorized interception of data during transmission. Remember, we talked about using encryption. So if what you are going through, the medium you are transmitting from is not secured, with the threat of wiretapping or attack of wiretapping, can have your data intercepted, and once it's intercepted, can be read, then you talk about no more confidentiality. Confidentiality has been breached, and also further actions could be taken using the information they have gotten from the data. So the damage is quantifiable. So it is very, very important that we understand this and put measures in place. Now, right now, we'll talk about wiretapping, which gives unauthorized access or interception of data during transmission. We need to prevent it. How do we prevent it? One of the ways we can prevent it is to use fiber optics cables. It is more resilient to this kind of attack. there is no noise. When um, the bad guys want to sniff, want to listen, they'll get nothing because it does not allow for wire tapping. Then also use secured cable routing. Secured cable routing. You can also use encrypted signals. So all of these things are measures to counter wire tapping. Then another threat to layer one is signal jamming, whereby signals is being disrupting especially wireless communication by overwhelming the channel with noise signals. So to prevent this, we use spread spectrum techniques and jamming resistance protocols. Another thing that can happen to layer one, as in the threat, is physical equipment tampering. Physical equipment tampering. What does that mean? People can go and damage the cable, or a way of sabotaging or damaging network equipment. Of course, so many providers, ISPs, have suffered a lot of this kind of attack. So to prevent this, you must put physical security measures in place. You must also put logs or surveillance cameras that will help you to watch over this. So note this, that at this level, there's what we call, excuse me, wiretapping. There's what we call signal jamming, and there's what we call physical equipment tampering. That's for layer one. Layer two, in layer two, you have layer two manages direct communication between nodes using MAC, that's media access control, addresses. Then also ensure error detection and correction. Then we talk about data transmission, complete data transmission in good condition. Then you also find out that here, the major or the common attacks at this level are what we call app spoofing. It's an attack on the layer two data link layer. This app spoofing has to do with manipulating the app table to associate a legitimate IP with an attacker's MAC address. So if you're talking about app spoofing, it's about the attacker changing an IP address, his own IP address, with a legitimate, replacing a legitimate IP address with its own IP address. What are the impacts? It will redirect the traffic for interception or for denial of service. So the legitimate person will not have access anymore, or he will redirect the traffic. So the communication will now shift from the legitimate person, the legitimate people, to a legitimate person and the attacker. Then that can cause a denial of service on the other part of one of them, and also a redirection of traffic from the other end. That also to also prevent this, we need to implement what we call dynamic app inspection, DAI, dynamic app inspection. So another attack on this level is what we call VLAN hopping. VLAN hopping is gaining access to unauthorized VLANs by exploiting switch configuration. If the switch is not properly configured, it can easily be what? Be hopped. So to prevent this, you must have proper switch configuration and isolate ports by isolate ports and also tagging of your tagging of your network, your connectivities. We also have what we call MAC flooding. MAC flooding happens at this level, at the level of data link. So this is to overload a switch MAC table to force it into flooding mode, thereby giving access, breaking down the security of the switch, and the attacker can have access through this fault. How do we do this? How do we prevent this? We prevent this MAC flooding by enabling port security on switches. So you place the security of the hubs, of the ports, of the hubs rather, the switches rather, on the ports. Then you now talk about layer 3 network layer. The network layer is responsible for IP addressing, which we already mentioned. And the protocols are IP4, IP6, ICMP, and routing protocols like OSPF and BGP. What are the attackers? What are the common attacks? The common attacks on this level are IP spoofing, which means sending packet with a forged IP address. What is the impact of this? This means he will invade, the attacker will invade what we call, will invade detection, or it will mimic a trusted host to gain access into the network. To prevent this, you must do what we call packet filtering, and verification mechanisms must be put in place in order to overcome this. Now, you look at the level by layer kind of common attacks. So at this different level, if you're an IT CIO, excuse me, at this point, you will be knowledgeable enough to recommend the appropriate prevention for any of this attack at different level of your network network connectivity. Now, you also have routing table poisoning. That is inserting malicious routes into routing tables and taking advantage of it. What's the impact? Traffic misdirection or isolation. How do we prevent this? You prevent this by a secure dynamic routing protocols with authentication. So you implement authentication mechanism for the routing protocols while you have it secured dynamically. Then another thing that happened at this level, which is very, very, very rampant these days, is what we call DDoS attacks. The DDoS attacks means distributed denial of service attacks. This happens by overwhelming the network, by flooding it with a high volume of packets. Now, how do you prevent this? Do this by implementing traffic filtering, rate limiting, and DDoS mitigation tools. These are ways you can prevent it. Then, at the level of transport layer or level 4, what are the common uh, what are the common attacks? Remember, at the transport layer, you have protocols such as TCP and UDP. So the common attacks include sink flooding. Sink flooding. Um, this sink flooding is exploiting the TCP handshake by sending numerous sink requests without completing the connection. Remember, like I said, it's a three-way handshake connectivity. You send a signal, then there's an acknowledgement, then now the connection itself, three-way signal. So what it does is now it will flood it with a TCP handshake by numerous sync requests without the complete connection. In that, the impact is it will now exhaust the service and cause what? Service denial. And for us to prevent this, we must do what we call sync cookies and rate limiting. Sync cookies and rate limiting. Then how about issue of port scanning, where they probe open ports to identify running services? So the impact is what we call reconnaissance. And this reconnaissance is to enable them prepare for future attack. Okay, it's a way of finding out what system is running, the OS, the ports that are really open, rather, the ports that are open that can be exploited. How do you prevent it? You use intrusion detection systems, that's IDS, and port blocking. Then what about communication hijacking? This is common at this section hijacking or communication hijacking. This is very, very common. They take control of an existing TCP section. Yes. So they take, because they have been able to like gain access to it, so they take control over it. How do you prevent it? You do encryption, communication, secured communication, and monitor sequence numbers. You monitor the sequence number. A system to monitor the sequence number can be implemented. Then we now have section, we now have level 5. Level 5. Level 4 is the transport. Yeah. So we now have level 5. The level 5 have also what we call session hijacking, where they gain unauthorized access to user session by stealing session tokens. To prevent this, you use secured session management. This is TLS, or you use what we call HTTPS and token expiration. But not only that, we can also use a good programming method to prevent session hijacking. Then you also have in section, in this level 5 section layer, you have what we call man in the middle attack. Man in the middle attack. This man in the middle attack is an attack that intercepts and manipulates communication between two parties, where it's going to prevent each parties from communicating between each other. Rather, there will be a kind of an intermediary. The person will come into the attacker will come as a third person in the middle of the communication. And to prevent this, you have end-to-end encryption and certificate validation. This is very, very important, because if you leave your data plane, like your what we call a PIN or credit card numbers or credit card numbers to this kind of attack, there will be a monetary loss. So it is essential that we take care of this. Then you now talk about attacks or common attacks on the presentation layer. Remember, the presentation layer is responsible for data translation, compression and encryption or decryption. It ensures that data is in a usable format for the application layer. Now, for this to happen, the presentation layer, the common attack is weak encryption exploitation. Now, when you have a weak encryption, it will be broken into easily, like breaking poorly implemented encryption schemes. Now, to prevent this, it's better you use strong encryption algorithms. You can use AES, but you can also use TLS, maybe 1.3 and above. Then another thing that happens at this level, the presentation layer, is the introduction of malware injection. Malware is embedded malicious payload in data streams. To prevent this, you use what they call content inspections and robust antivirus solutions. Then we'll talk about the last layer, which is the application layer. The application layer, the presentation layer is one that packages and delivers to the application layer. Now, the application layer is the interface with users' application to facilitate communication over the network. You have protocols like HTTP, FTP, SMTP, DNS, and more are happening at this level. Now, the common attacks at this level has to do with like your web application. This what we call SQL injection. So we call SQL injection. Then SQL injection is a malicious SQL command that is introduced into web applications inputs. Then to prevent this, you must implement what we call input validation and parameterize queries. So you don't have to write a query that is long continuously that can easily be exploited. So it is a programming ethics that will prevent this. So this can be prevented by having a good programming standard. Another thing that happened at this level, at this application level, or layer 7 level, is the phishing, tricking users into revealing sensitive information. And the prevention of this is user awareness, training, and anti-phishing tools. So this can prevent phishing. Then you have what we call cross-site scripting, XSS, injecting malicious scripts into web pages viewed by users. For example, if you have XSL in scripting, something will be popping up on the web page of a company, thereby imparting on the image of the company. Then to prevent this, you put input sensitization and content security policies in place to prevent this kind of attack. So having said that, let's look at the key takeaways in form of a summary or tips for the defense. Now, layer security approaches. We must use security mechanisms across all levels. To be sure. Use encryption, secure communication channel at multiple layers. Use access control, limit physical and network access to prevent unauthorized tampering. Use monitoring and detection. to deploy, you will deploy what we call IDS, Intrusion Detection System, and you also implement what we call IPS, Intrusion Prevention System, as solutions, and also a log monitoring to deter threats. Then we have what we call security best practices. Keep software updated, ensure strong authentication, and educate users on social engineering threat. You can also use what we call SIEMs to be able to secure your network. With this, I want to round up this by thanking you for your attention, and looking forward to further discuss any questions that you may have, even as you go to our comment sections and writing out your questions. Thank you very much.